All right, let's get started. So, welcome to my talk, Coder Coach Catalyst, using questions to make people grow. Now, when you leave here today, you will have a simple formula to make the people around you grow and become better at what they do. And at the same time, it will help you unblock yourself and not become the bottleneck inside of your organization. Now, the thing is, with what I'm going to tell you today, it's exactly like when you do coaching. The things I give you, they will not work if you do not go out there and apply them. So I can only give you the formula, but it's going to be up to you to actually make it work in reality. And that's really the hard part. Now, what we're going to be going through today is one skill, 3 different coaching formats, and 5 different coaching questions, which you can apply in your job today in order to make people grow and unblock yourself. So the things I will tell you will also change how you interact with others. It's going to change how you listen and how you speak to others. And it will also change the perception others have of you in your organization. Now, my name is Martin Mazur, and I'm a coder. I'm a consultant, coach, and speaker. Used to be a coder. I've worked 22 years in the industry. What I do today is I mostly work with tech leaders and organizations in order to help them get better processes, better ways of working, and better ways of communicating between tech and business, so that they can focus on delivering great products. Now, I've worked all my years as a consultant, meaning that I've seen big organizations, small organizations, very healthy, well-working organizations, and a lot of them not so much. So these are some of the things that I see happening in a lot of organizations and to a lot of people as they gain seniority within their craft. So how many here work as like individual contributors, coders, designers, things like that? Okay, how many have like a leadership position, like a staff plus thing going on? Anybody a pure manager, like only managing people? All right. So hopefully there's something in here for everyone. Now, as technologists, either active technologists or former technologists, we are configured to solve problems. I've heard in several different talks that people that go into software development are predisposed to logical thinking and trying to solve things with logic. And the most important thing for us is to solve the problem and solve it correctly, and we have a strong passion for that. Now, that works for us. It works in our profession. It works when we work with technology, when we work with code, until it stops working for us. Because then something happens. Like either you decide that I'm going to take this promotion, I'm going to go into tech leadership or become a CTO, or I'm going to take the staff plus role, or simply you just gain seniority inside of your organization. You've worked there for so many years that people eventually start coming to you for advice. Now your job is not about the code anymore. It's not about the tech. It's actually about the people. Truth is, it was always about the people, and you somehow deep inside knew about this, but the things, the practices that you've been leaning on, producing answers, simply don't work in the same way with people as they used to do with the tech and with the code. Now, and if we're really good at what we do, right? People come to us with their problems. They come for us with advice, and we apply the same mindset. I can fix this for you. Give me the problem. I will solve it, right? And we become the go-to person. We become the hero in our organization. This is what everybody wants, right? I'm the go-to person. I'm the hero. Product managers start coming to us with their most dire problems because it's important and has to be done now, and we sit there and we fix it and when we do it, and colleagues come with the hardest bugs and we go like, yeah, give me that bug, I can fix it. They start asking us to do impossible things, and we do them. And it feels good. The problem is that eventually what starts happening is that we either die a hero or we live long enough to see ourselves become the villain. Meaning that eventually the product grows, the organization grows, the team grows, and our time is just not enough. So it starts taking a personal toll on us. Maybe we burn out, maybe we change jobs. We try to get away from the situation because all of a sudden we're not the fix-it or go-to person, we're the black hole. Oh, I never give them anything because, if I give them something, they go away for weeks and they forget about it, it gets lost in the backlog, oh, I don't ask them for advice anymore because they're just snarky and you can't talk to them, right? So maybe we burn out, we die a hero. Or we become the villain. We lock ourselves away. We just do PowerPoints and send Jira tickets and do bad comments on pull requests, and nobody likes us anymore in the organization. And it's not fun, right? So, are you the hero or are you the villain? That's the big question. So, most people that become the villain at some point try to fix this. They realize that the situation I'm living in is currently very unsustainable, right? And the way we try to fix things, most of us, when it gets out of hand, is we go ask for help. So they do. We go ask for help. We ask our manager or somebody else, like, listen, this is spun out of control. Like, I've been trying to help everybody. I've been trying to fix everything. I have these juniors coming to me with all these questions. The product managers think I can do everything in the whole world, and it's not working anymore. And then the manager goes and says one of these few things. Maybe you've heard some of these. Well, just say no. That's easy. Just say no to things. You have to learn to say no. Or you need to delegate more. That's really easy for somebody in a managerial position to say because they actually have people to delegate to. Not all tech people have people to delegate to. You need to set clear boundaries. Like, I haven't tried that already. Or protect your time, which is just the same thing. Oh, don't take on other people's work. I'm just trying to be helpful. I'm trying to be a productive member of the team. This one is my favorite. This is actually somebody actually said this to me once. Have you tried not caring so much? Yeah, that's an option. Just don't give a shit anymore. Sure. This one is also true. Simply clone yourself. This was an ongoing joke at a job I had. It's like, if we just cloned Martin, we wouldn't have any business problems anymore. We've just had all the Martins in the world. But while that's flattering, that's not a solution to the problem, and it's also very unrealistic. So when you go ask for help and somebody tells you this, it's not that fun. Or just tell everyone you're busy. Sure, just block your calendar and go underground. That's going to solve everything. So, these things, they really don't solve a lot of the problems. And when you find yourself in this situation, you actually don't have one problem, you have two problems. Because the two problems you've created is, one, the problem of you. You've just become a bottleneck in your organization, preventing others from getting work done, right? And the second problem is the problem of them. Because in your heroism, your way of trying to be Batman or Wonder Woman or whatever hero you want to be, saving the city from all the villains and all the bad things going on, like the police, everybody else around you, they haven't figured out how to do the job properly. So when you go away as a hero, they're left without the tools needed to navigate the city. So you've also, by taking on all of their work, by solving all of their problems for them, by being super helpful and a really nice person, you've also robbed them of a chance to learn and grow. So these are the things we're going to be addressing today. This talk is about coaching techniques. It's not about coaching in the broad sense, but it's about using coaching techniques in everyday work. So let's talk a little bit about what I mean when I say coaching. There's this tennis coach from a long, long time ago called Timothy Galloway. And he's, in many respects, responsible for the way we see coaching today. So what Timothy discovered was that when he was giving his tennis players clear advice on what to do, stand more straight or hit the ball like this. I know nothing about tennis. they would do like minor corrections, but they would still do it wrong, and it would not kind of stick with them. So he figured out that, there's something else to this. I can't, this isn't the way the coaching is supposed to happen. So what he started doing, he would be more like, he would give them more vague things like, have you tried focusing more on the ball? Started asking questions, starting doing things like that. And then he saw that they would autocorrect into the correct posture or holding the tennis racket in the correct way or whatever, by him just giving those types of, focus on the ball more, or hey, did you see what your racket did there? That would actually be much more helpful. He wrote a book called The Inner Game, which is all about this. So when I talk about coaching, I talk about that type of posture to coaching. So that type of posture is we help others discover a solution to the problem instead of solving problems for them. We ask good questions instead of giving answers and instructions. We focus on the person rather than focusing on the problem. We look for the long-term growth, right? So it's more important that we make the person grow in the long term rather than the immediate outcome. And we try to adapt to others' needs rather than using a one-size-fits-all approach. This is funny, right? Because I'm here talking to you that I'm going to give you one skill, 3 different formats, and 5 questions to solve all of your problems. And here, and at this slide, I'm telling you there's no one-size-fits-all approach. There's not. This is not a silver bullet. This is not going to solve all your problems. But if you've never used coaching techniques, if you've never done coaching, see this as a starter pack. I'm going to give you a place to start your coaching journey. You can take that, you can make it your own, you can adapt it to your own coaching style, and you can adapt it to the people around you, right? So that's how I want you to view the things that I'll be talking about. Right, so again, let's jump in. We're going to talk about the 1 skill, the 3 formats, and the 5 questions. So what is the 1 skill? The 1 skill that makes coaching actually work is active listening. Without active listening, nothing I'm going to talk about today is going to work. What I mean about active listening is fully paying attention to the person that is talking. That means not thinking about what you're going to say next when they finish, not thinking about what question you're going to ask them when they finish. It means fully, actively listening to what is it they're actually saying, both what they're saying with their words, but also what they're saying with body language and posture, tone of voice. What are all the things left unsaid? And then it's not only about listening actively, it's also about showing the person that you're listening actively. Meaning, like if they're telling you a sad story or they're telling you that they're stressed or they have stress in their voice, the way you should react to that is in a similar fashion, right? You shouldn't be all cheering, oh yeah, that sounds great. Like that won't make sense. They will notice you're not listening to them. If they have certain types of gestures, you would want to have similar types of gestures. You want to use gestures like nodding your head to show them that, I'm here. Vocal cues, ums and ahs, when they're talking to kind of validate what they're saying. You can also summarize and paraphrase what they're saying. And you do this for 2 reasons. One would be in order to make sure that what they said, that you understood that correctly. So somebody tells you something else like, so what I'm hearing is this and this and this. Is that what you mean, right? And secondly, you could do that to show them that you actually listen, because when you get that right, they're going to be, yes, that's exactly what I meant. Thank you for listening to me. Also, you approach this with a lot of empathy. A lot of the people we talk to, a lot of the people that come to us for help and advice, we might disagree with what they're saying. And that can be frustrating, especially for us as tech people that like to view things in black and whites and ones and zeros and rights and wrongs. Oh, you're so wrong about that thing. And we automatically want to jump into the discussion. But when we show empathy, empathy is, for me, is not about agreeing with the person, but it's about understanding that what they are expressing to me makes sense in their world, given their experiences, what they've been through. They've arrived at a logical conclusion, and this is true for them. So I just have to accept that. That's their reality. That's what they're living in. So that's the one skill. Now, we're not that many in this talk, so I'm going to give it a go and force you all to do an exercise, because this is a talk about talking to people, so you're not going to get out of some interactive element. So this is something which I've lived through recently, because my daughter is now 7. My son is coming up on 3 years, so he's going to be 5 in a while. Kids are really good at asking questions, but the specific type of questions kids ask are, why is that? What is that? How is that? And they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going until your face explodes. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to find another person. Doesn't matter who it is or if you know them or whatever in the room. Just find someone. It's a 2-minute exercise. Has everybody found someone? Just the person sitting next to you, in front of you, behind of you. If there's somebody without a friend, just jump into a group. You can be 3. It's okay. Now, now I want you to decide who's going to be asking the questions and who is going to be coached, right? We won't have time to do role reversal, so you just get to do it one way. Okay. So then the person 1 describes a problem or an issue that they're having. Yeah. Person 1 describes a problem or issue that they're having, and don't make this like, my partner's trying to divorce me or something that you're not, or something that you're not comfortable with sharing. My boss is a moron because they might be at the take something that you're comfortable with sharing with a stranger. And then person 2 uses all of their mind to actively listen. Actively listen. Don't think about what you're going to say. Actively listen to person 1. And use these questions, why, what, how. And note the things that are being said and things not being said. All right, you get 2 minutes to do this now. Thank you. All right, time's up. Yes. If you want to do this again, or you want to do this with your team, you can get the exercise on the QR code up there. Now, just quick question to the listeners out there. Hands up if it was different listening in this way. Did you feel anything different than in other types of conversations? Okay, few people. All right. And to the person being coached, like, did you get any insights? Did you find out something you didn't know by yeah, a few people. All right. Now, the way this exercise works, it's actually a root cause analysis exercise. It's based on the 5 whys. So this is not going to solve any problems. This is not a good coaching technique, but it's a good way to practice active listening. Because since the questions are predefined, the why, what, and how, it immediately lets your brain not think about what am I going to say next, or what do I have to do next. It's just like you can fully listen. Then when they stop talking, you just go, why is that? And you move on. So active listening, that's the number 1 skill. That's the last exercise, I promise you. I'm not going to force you to do any more stuff like that. So let's talk about coaching formats. So the first coaching format I'm going to touch upon is formal coaching. Now, the reason that this is the first one I'm talking about is because when people say coaching, this is what everybody immediately thinks about. When people say, I want to be a coach or I want to work with coaching, this is what they think about. Or when people say, I want to have a coach, this is what they think about. Formal coaching is when you have a coach that you visit once a week or once every second week, and you sit down and you have a formal coaching session for 50 minutes or an hour. And formal coaching is usually something that addresses a problem in the long term. So we work on something together for 10, 15, 20 sessions to solve either it's a performance thing, or it's I want to grow at a certain skill, or I want to change something in my behavior or the way I'm working. So it usually works on a longer period of time. Now, so in this sense, the coach that you're working with, they have like a memory, right? Because they remember what you did last session, and you come back to this in the previous session. They ask you, how did it go, and so on and so forth. But so this is the classical view of coaching. This is what everybody thinks about. Now, formal coaching is really nice if you're already a leader and you have a team of people working with you and you want to grow and excel them in a way, then you can set up formal coaching sessions with them, right? Or if you're a manager, you can set up formal coaching sessions. Because formal coaching builds upon an agreement. It builds upon the agreement that you will accept me as your coach, you're cool with that, and I will accept you as my coachee, I'm cool with that, right? So we engage in a formal relationship. If one of us is not agreeing to that contract, then the coaching will not work. So this is where formal coaching breaks down. And this is why it won't work if you're working in an individual contributor role as a coach or so on and so forth, unless you have like an apprentice that has agreed to be coached by you, or if you have a problem member on your team that goes like, listen, I would really want you to help me work through these problems, and you can agree on a formal coaching relationship. So the techniques I'm going to show you today, the questions I'm going to give you, will work in a formal coaching setup. You just have to be mindful that if you do it in a formal coaching setup, you're working on two different time spans. You're working on, this is the whole arrangement, right? So we're trying to get from here to here. You could see that as we're trying to deliver a product. And then each session is like a iteration, or like a planning meeting. So then the coachee does the work between the two sessions. So you have your iterations or sprints, and then you have the whole product delivery. So you have to keep in mind that you're working on two different time scales. If you've never done coaching, this is a really bad place to start, because this is hard to do. Now, what I will be talking more about is the impromptu coaching. Now, impromptu coaching, that's coaching that can happen anywhere. Some call it situational coaching or on-the-fly coaching. That's coaching you do when people knock on your door and say like, hey, could you help me with this? Or it's coaching that you do at the lunch table, by the coffee machine, in a meeting, basically anywhere. And since impromptu coaching integrates into a conversation, you don't really need to have an established agreement, a coach-coachee agreement with the person that you're coaching. You can basically coach anyone. So it's a much more useful tool in day-to-day life, or a format in day-to-day life. And it usually focused on smaller bite-sized problems, so we're not trying to achieve behavioral change with impromptu coaching. We're trying to solve a problem which is much more here and now, in the immediate short term, right? But we're trying to solve it in a way where we're not taking on the responsibility for the problem. We're letting the responsibility leave with the person that came into the room. So this is the one I'm going to kind of be focusing mostly on in this talk. But again, the techniques I'm going to show you work with all different types of coaching formats. The last one, probably the most fun, but also the most complicated, this is team coaching. I do a lot of team coaching, and team coaching can be either formal coaching or impromptu coaching. I use it in a formal setting. This is basically when we apply the same techniques. Oh, nice bugs. We apply the same techniques to to a whole team, right? So the reason you want to do team coaching is if you want to work on team challenges. So if there's a problem within the team with maybe the way the team is working or the team dynamic or something else that needs to be addressed by the team as a whole, team coaching is a nice tool. Now, it's also very time-saving because when you do team coaching, it's only 1 hour for me and it's 1 hour for all of the team. Instead, if I did individual coaching, I would have to have a team of 5 people. I would have to have 5 different coaching sessions. That's 1.5 work days if I do pre-work and follow-up, right? So team coaching, if in that sense, can also be a huge time saver. Now, team coaching is the most complicated version, because you're dealing with more than one person. So naturally, in a group or a team, there will be conflicts, there will be discussions, there will be disagreements between the people. So you might need to switch out from coaching mode into more facilitating mode and or a conflict resolution mode, right? So you have to be able to mentally switch between different postures when you're working with team coaching, which makes it a little bit complicated. So this is neither a place you should start if you've never done coaching before, but now you know it exists. So let's talk about the 5 questions. So the 5 questions we're going to talk about are, I grouped them into categories. It's initiation questions. These are the questions that help you drop into a coaching conversation. It's excavation questions. These are the questions that will help you dig deeper within whatever problem the person is having or asks you to actually get underneath the skin of what they're talking about. Then there's a focus question, which brings it in to focus on one problem that's solvable. And then there's the option question, which provides options for resolution. And finally, there's the action question, which is the one that prompts them to actually do something about whatever they're coming to you with. In this scenario, the way I'm going to be showing it to you today, all of these questions follow each other very neatly in a very structured way. The reason they do it is because I made the scenario up. So I've orchestrated it. It's a demo. That's not how reality works. In reality, you're going to go forward, you're going to backward between the steps. The question is going to integrate into each other, but keeping track of the flow of initiation, excavation, focus, option, action kind of helps you understand where you are in the conversation. So even if you have a setback, you can go like, okay, we were here, now we went back, now we need to move forward again, right? So you can still use that as a mental model to remember where you are in the conversation. We're going to work through, from now on, with a fictional scenario between Taylor, who's a tech lead, and Sam, who is a developer, right? So the first question we're going to talk about is the initiation question. Now, my favorite initiation question is, what's on your mind? There are other initiation questions, of course, that you could be using, like what's up, or if you have a piece of work, is like, what do you think of this? Those are also good initiation questions. There are initiation questions you should be avoiding, like, how are you, right? Or are you feeling all right? Is everything okay? Those are emotionally loaded questions which are not naturally going to bring you in to a problem that you can necessarily solve. Oh, I'm feeling really bad, my dog died and everything is shit. And like you can be an empathetic person and listen, but you won't be able to coach the person out from that situation. So you want to avoid those emotionally loaded initiation questions. Also, all types of questions that could be answered with yes or no. Is everything okay? Yes. Great, we have nothing more to talk about. We're done, conversation over. Status questions. How's it going? Are you making progress on this thing? Anything that can be perceived as you are checking in with them on status of the work should also be avoided, because that's also not going to bring up the right things to work on. And lastly, questions that prompt for problems. do you have any issues or do you have any problems? Because what happens is when I ask you, do you have any problems? Even if you didn't have any problems, you're going to make a problem up and you're going to tell me the problem. And now we have a fictional problem that we're working with, and that's not good either. So I'm going to stick with what's on your mind. This is my favorite one. So in this scenario, Sam walks in and goes like, hey, Taylor, do you have a minute? Taylor goes like, yeah, hey, Sam, what's on your mind? When Sam starts offloading, I'm feeling the crunch with this feature. We really keep getting last-minute changes to the requirements, and I'm worried we won't make the deadline. Can you help? Now, when this happens to you, what do? You go like, Sam, we'll fix it. Of course I can help. Show me what's going on. Like, I can take some of the features off your hands. I have some extra time. But we're not going to do this here because this is exactly what we're trying to avoid. This is how you get sucked into doing more work and also robbing Sam of the possibility to grow. What we're going to do is we're going to try to understand what's underneath this, because the first thing Sam tells us is not the actual problem. So we're going to use an excavation question. And the next best excavation question is, and what else? But it's the next best way to do excavation, because the best way to do excavation is actually to shut up. But that's really, really hard to do, because silence is awkward and we want to kill the silence. But if you just shut up and you're quiet, people will naturally keep talking. But since that's hard to do, we use and what else as excavation question because it's easier. We can talk. When people stop talking, we go like, and what else is going on? The thing with excavation is you want to use this question not once. It's kind of like the 5 whys. You want to use it multiple times until you've gotten down to what you think is the core problem or the core issue going on here. Now, when do you know that? Well, it's hard to know at first, but it's not dangerous to go too far. If you ask this too many times, we have a question to fix that for you later on, so don't worry about it. It's better to go too far. So let's apply this to our fictional scenario. So instead of jumping in and solving the issue, Taylor goes, that sounds like there's a lot to handle. See, active listening. We acknowledge, all right. We say, oh, that sounds like you have a lot to handle. We show some empathy. And what else is going on? Well, it's like every time I think I'm done, another change request comes in. It's like I can't keep up and I'm getting worn out. What's that about? Let's check in. I get that, empathy. I understand what you're going through. And what else? Actually, I guess part of the problem is I haven't been pushing back on these changes. You know, I just joined the team. I'm saying yes because I don't want the product team to feel like I'm being difficult. They're new to the team. There's pressure. They probably even haven't raised this issue with the product team. All right, we're getting somewhere. In a real-life scenario, I would probably pop the question a few more times, but this is a staged scenario, so let's keep going. The next question we're going to talk about is the focus question. We've asked, and what else? We now have a broad spectra problem. We have different viewpoints on it. So we need to get into what we can really do about it, what the real problem is here. And the best question for doing this is, what is the real challenge here for you? Now, we need to have the for you at the end, because if you drop the for you, the context of the question changes. What is the real challenge here? Now, that could quickly spin into, well, you know, the model we're working with, the Agile thing, is not working for me, and then the PM, he's a dumbass, and I can't work with them. And you know, this spins out of control into a context that the person is not able to control. So what is the real challenge here for you is the for you is really important, so don't mess that up. Don't forget to ask that. Because you don't want to change the context of the question, then you're going to be stuck in a hole that you won't be able to dig yourself out of. So let's pop the question. Thanks for sharing that. So what's the real challenge here for you? And Sam goes, I feel like as part of the team, I should be able to handle everything that comes my way. It feels like everyone else is managing, so some case of imposter syndrome, new to the team. As the new person, I don't feel comfortable saying no. So again, now we see this thing here, probably haven't said no, probably hasn't raised the issue with the product team. And again, it's really, now we were really itching for just, oh, so maybe you should just go and talk to the product team and tell them no, right? Or we're really itching to just tell them what to do now in this scenario. But we're not going to do that because that's not going to be helpful. It's not going to be helpful to us, it's not going to be helpful to them. Because what we don't know is what Sam has already tried. So this is where we use the option questions. And this is not one question, I'll admit it. The option question is not one question, it's a battery of questions. What we're trying to do in this stage is we're trying to weed out what different things have already been tried, what different things have been tried and worked for Sam specifically in similar scenarios, what things are left to be tried that Sam has already thought about, and why haven't those things really been used yet. So with the option questions, we have things like, what have you tried so far? But we also have questions like, what have you tried before in similar scenarios? What resources do you have at your disposal that you could use? And then we have, and what else? Because and what else is a magical question, and you can also use it in this context. So we jump in and we try to figure out a couple of options for solving this problem together with Sam. That's understandable. What have you tried so far? What have you done to manage the changes? And here we can see what's been going on. Well, I've been working longer hours, so that's good that we didn't suggest that, to stay on top of things. I tried creating a list of and prioritize the tasks. Great, so good we didn't suggest that. But I end up saying yes to everything anyway, so it hasn't helped much. So now we know what things have been tried. So the next question is, in similar situations, when you felt overwhelmed, what's worked for you? Well, I managed it better before by checking with the team to see which parts were really needed for the deadline and which could wait. But this time, I've been too worried about disappointing people. Like we see what's going on here, right? We see what the underlying issue is, but let's try to avoid and fix it for them. Let's keep going. Makes sense. What resources or support do you have that could help you? Here it comes. I suppose I could clarify priorities with the product team and maybe let them know that I'm under time pressure, but I'm not sure how to start that conversation. All right, so Sam has themselves now suggested something that they could do, but they don't know how to get started. So this is when the action question comes in. When we hear a suggestion, but there's some type of uncertainty around the suggestion, this is when we go in for closing it. The action questions is things like, what are you going to do about it? This is the most aggressive one. In this situation, I'm not going to use that question because Sam is already a little bit afraid, so it thinks it's a little bit hard to do. So other things could be, what's the next natural step? What's the smallest thing you could do? With action question, we can also pair it with an accountability question. An accountability question is things like, so can you let me know when you've done that? Or can you send me a text message when you've done that? Or by when are you going to do that? So it's kind of a way to keep track of that the thing actually gets done. Now, the problem with this, what's going on here, is that the solution we ended up with, that can sometimes feel really uncomfortable because you had another solution in mind. You were thinking, I want Sam to do something else. I don't want Sam to do this thing because that's not the right thing to do. I want them to do something else. But you have to let it go at this point. Because you are not Sam. Only Sam knows what's right for Sam. You think you know what's right. But if you tell Sam what to do, you've effectively robbed them of any accountability for their actions. If that thing fails, Sam is going to be like, you know what, I knew it wasn't going to work, but Taylor told me to do it, so I did it anyway, and it didn't work, and I knew all about it all the time. But if it's Sam's idea, regardless if you disagree with that idea or you don't think it's going to work or whatever, they're going to feel accountable for that. So you do not want to rob Sam of accountability here. So let's pop in an action question, and I'm going to use this one. That's a good starting point. So what's one step you feel comfortable with taking to get that conversation going? Because I don't want to scare Sam here and go like, so what are you going to do about it? I think I could reach out to the product lead and ask for a sync on priorities, maybe frame it as a way to ensure we're focusing on the highest impact change. I should let them know how each change impacts the timeline so I understand the trade-offs. So they understand the trade-offs. Now again, this might not be exactly what's needed. This might not be the perfect solution. This might not be what we want Sam to do, but it's Sam's solution. So let Sam try it out. That's a good idea. And when are you going to set that up? Because now I want them to commit to me that they have a timeline. I'll send a message by the end of the day to schedule with them. All right. That's good, I'm happy with that. Great. Now, we empathize, we show support. That's great. Let me know if you need any support. And remember, it's completely okay to clarify priorities and to keep realistic workload. If we really think they're doing a great job, you're doing a great job balancing everything, right? So we reaffirm that what they're feeling is okay. We show that we're there to support them. And we give them a little thumbs up that they're doing a great job to set them on their way. In this situation, I'm not adding in any type of external accountability, like send me a text message or let me know when you've booked this, because this is more of a conversational scenario that will feel weird. But what I would do in this situation is I would probably grab Sam by the coffee machine maybe 2 or 3 days later and say like, hey, how did it go with the meeting? Did you get that booked? Or maybe send a Slack message and say like, hey, I'm really curious about what happened with the meeting. How did that work out for you? Just to check in. It's not necessary, but it's a nice touch. All right, so that kind of concludes the 5 questions, a fictional scenario, and that's roughly the structure you can use for both impromptu coaching, formal coaching, or team coaching if you want to. Now, sometimes people don't come with problems. Sometimes people come and ask us for decisions and advice. This works in much a similar way, but what we're trying to do when people come and ask us for decisions and advice is we're trying to have them leave with a framework for making similar decisions at a later stage. So what we're trying to work with here is heuristics, or that's just a fancy word for rules of thumb. There are many different types of rules of thumb, like things and we have them sometimes built into us. Like if your remote is not working, you kind of go, you wiggle it around, it doesn't work, you try to change the batteries. If that doesn't work, you check if the TV's plugged in. Like you have this already built in kind of stages without thinking about it, how you solve problems. The Agile manifesto is heuristics. It's like, we value people and interactions over processes and tools. It's a way to make decisions quickly in the heat of the moment. The US military has a heuristics framework for when they get stuck behind enemy lines, which is keep moving, seek high ground, and stay in touch. Because you don't know what's waiting for you. You don't know exactly what the problem is going to be, so they have these heuristics to kind of follow. Now, this is what we're trying to have people get from us when they come for decisions and advice. So here I'm going to take a loaded example. Sam comes in and goes like, hey, Taylor, got a minute? Hey, Sam, what's on your mind? All right, now, okay, we'll see if people start throwing stuff at me. Which framework should I use for a new project, React or Vue? Now, you might already have an opinion on this, and the easiest way to get Sam to go away is to just tell them the answer, right? Just use this one, go away, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. We tell them our favorite framework and they're gone. But that's not what we're trying to achieve, because what we do when we do that is that we tie a rubber band around Sam and Sam runs away. And the next person comes, asks a question, we tie a rubber band around them and they run away. And then eventually they all snap back to us with a different question. If we have enough rubber bands going out, we get mangled in the middle. And all of these small decisions and advice questions, they kill us in the long run. So let's help them create a heuristic framework for this. What criteria do you think are important when choosing a framework? I don't know. Maybe ease of use. And then we pop in the, and what else, the favorite question. And what else? Well, community support, resources, I guess. Okay. Anything else? We'll go again. I don't know. Can't come up with anything else. So now is the time to step a little bit out of coaching mode. They've given us some criteria. There's definitely some that we feel are important that are not on the list, so we add in our own criteria. We go like, for this project, I would also consider scalability and then always check the licensing. Like, even if we know the answers to those questions, we still have to give them to Sam. The questions, I mean, not the answers. Of course. And then we kind of sum it up. So now we have ease of use, community support, scalability, and licensing. Can you get all of that information? We confirm that Sam knows how to get this information. Yes, that should be easy. Okay, then we confirm, will you be able to make the decision based on those criteria? We confirm with Sam, if you get that information, do you think you're going to have enough information to make the decision? I think so, thank you, and they leave. Now, the next time they have to make a decision like this, they're going to know what type of framework to lean back on. They're going to know how to think about this type of problem, and they're hopefully not going to come knocking on our door for silly questions like that. So that was about decisions and advice. The last thing we're going to go through in terms of questions is who you can coach. Now, there's a lot of things going around there, like coaching certificates. You need to be are you a certified coach? Yes, no? You don't need to be a certified coach to coach. Honestly, you don't even need to understand the domain that you're coaching within. You can coach around anything. I coach people in technologies I've never worked with. I coach people in industries that I've never worked with. Since it's all about posing the right questions, showing empathy, and digging deeper, if you have curiosity, you're going to be able to do this. This means you can also coach sideways and upwards. So you can coach your peers or even your managers, specifically with impromptu coaching. The problem with coaching up is that it gets kind of awkward, right? So, because there's an inherent power structure already built in. So you want to go coach the CEO on something. There's like an inherent power structure. So what we need to do when we try to coach upwards, or sometimes when we try to coach our peers, is we need to ask for permission. So for this, I have a permission question, which is great to use, which is, would you be open to talking through this? And if they say, yes, I would, boom, you have permission to go into coaching mode. That's awesome. The way this would work is, now here we have a very great, transparent, awesome CEO or a product manager, I think, that says, I'm going into a big meeting with the board later this week to secure funding for our product division. I'll be honest, I'm not sure how to frame it. So they're very honest with their insecurities. This is a good leader. But don't worry about it. It's not your problem. Nice leadership. I'll figure something out. You know, they'll do it. Now, we might want to help in this situation, but it's kind of weird. So what we want to do is we want to ask permission. And we would preferably do this in a one-on-one setting. If they're using this to address the whole team, I might wait to after the meeting and catching them. But if it feels okay in the larger group, that would also be okay. So you can go something like, would you be open to talking through this? I might have a few questions that could provide some perspective. You can always ask. They can always say, nope, I want to figure this out on my own. This is a busy person, so they go like, yeah, sure, can you do it tonight? We could order some food and eat while we talk. Now, this is not an ideal scenario, but this is often what you might end up with if this is a busy person, a managerial person. Like, this is not them being an asshole. This is them making time for you. If they made that time, you should take it, even if it's inconvenient for you, even if it's over food, even if it's an evening time slot. They're making time for you, so you should take it. So in this scenario, I would go, sounds great. Have some food, I would ask some questions, maybe to get some insights, maybe I helped, maybe I didn't. Otherwise, it was good anyway. All right, we're coming up at the end of the talk, and the last thing I want to address here is a couple of things that I want you to watch out for if you start doing this type of work, or if you start talking to people like this. Now, the number one thing, which I want to be crystal clear on this, the number one thing you have to watch out for is different type of psychological issues or psychological problems that can pop up in this type of conversations. Specifically, if it's people that trust you a lot, people that are comfortable around you, when you start asking questions, conversations can quickly become deep, and they can derail into something which is you are not equipped to handle. I told you don't need a certificate to be a coach, but you do need to be a licensed psychologist to work through some of these things. And if you do that without knowing what you're messing with, it can go wrong very, very quickly. So in this scenario, what you want to do if you pop into something like this, or if it goes into, I'm burnt out, I'm depressed, I have an eating disorder, anything like that, I'm suicidal, what you want to do is you're going to go break it off immediately, say, listen, this is not a conversation you and me should be having, but, I can help you. And then you don't coach them. You take them in the hand and you go like, do you want me to find someone that can figure it out? Do you want to check company policy for you? Do you want me to go with you to a psychologist? Like you take that person and you actively bring them to where they need to be to get helped. So this is not something for you to handle. Next one is shoulder to cry on. Now, it's good. We can be people's shoulder to cry on. But when this happens, we need to check in what the person wants from us. So when a person comes to us and is like, oh, this sucks, and this is bad, and this is like that, and this is like this, and we don't really know what's going on, we can simply kind of very nicely ask, not in a hostile way, but like, hey, what is it do you want from me? Like, how do you want me to help you? And they might simply say, you know what, I just need somebody to talk to. I just want you to listen. And that's fine. Then we can be a nice person and we can listen. We can be their shoulder to cry on if that's something we want to do. But in that sense, if they come to us for this, don't go in and try to coach them out of it. They're not there to be coached or to solve the problem. They just want somebody to listen to them. The next one is gossip. Now, gossip is when somebody goes and tells you something about somebody else in the company. Go like, hey, you know what? I saw Ted do this thing, and then you should see it. And Ted did this and that, and that's not okay. And why is Ted doing these things? And they're blah blah blah. Like that's not their problem. You can't coach them from that problem. But what you want to do, or what I usually do, is you go and say like, that's really interesting. So what did Ted say when you told them about that? And they will immediately stop in their tracks and be like, oh, shit, I should probably go talk to Ted about this thing. So gossip, just stop that immediately. Let them go handle it with the person that they're talking shit about. The next one is similar, but it's not the same. It's kind of the third person issue. So this is when there is an actual problem. The person that's coming to us has an actual problem, but they're relaying all of the blame of that problem on somebody else. It's like, you know what? I'm trying to work through this. The quality is so bad, but the testing manager and the testing team and blah, 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 testing. They keep pushing away everything on somebody else, right? So in that case, what you want to do is you want to stop them and go like, I hear you, I understand. Testing is difficult. The testing team is difficult. Testing manager, blah, blah, blah. What is the real challenge here for you? We go back to that question. Because that refocuses from the context of with somebody else doing a bunch of things. What's the real challenge here for you? And brings it into a context where we maybe can get something that we can work with. So these are the 4 things you should definitely watch out for that are pitfalls that might send you off track when you're doing this. All right. So let's summarize. Basically, we went through the 1 skill, which is the active listening. So none of this is going to work unless you practice active listening. And this is a way of listening where you are completely taking in what the other person is saying. You're listening to both what's being said and not said. You're looking for audio cues, for visual cues, body language, but also actively listening to their words. You acknowledge what they're saying by both verbal acknowledgments like ums and ums, or trying to summarize what they're saying, and head nods, right? So you're really taking in all of the information. Next, we have the different formats. The formal coaching, which is coaching sessions you set up on a set cadence, weekly or bi-weekly, with people. This requires you to have a formal coaching agreement with them, saying like, I'm going to coach you, and they are okay with you being their coach. Then we have impromptu coaching, which is the on-the-fly coaching, the most useful for everybody working an individual contributor role, like a coder or a designer or something like that. And then finally, you have a team coaching, which can be both formal or impromptu, but when we address a whole team. This might be interesting if you're trying to do like an organizational change or trying to work through team problems like team dynamics. But it's also the hardest one to do because we need to remember that we can have conflicts and we might need to act as a facilitator or mediator to solve those things. The process we're using is initiation. That's the question that pops us into the coaching conversation. Then we have excavation. We dig deep and try to open up and see what problem is going on. Then we have the focus questions. We try to bring it down to one actual thing that we're going to work on. We create a few options for that thing by looking around what's already been tried, what hasn't been tried, what has worked in the past, what should we try next. And then we pop an action question to make sure that something actually happens after the conversation. If we follow this, when people come with problems, decisions, and that type of stuff to us, we can actually have them leave with the things instead of leaving the things with us. So this makes them grow because now they have accountability, they become better at what they do, but it also unburdens us because now we don't take on their work, okay? Lastly, here's a quote from Peter Block, which is, I think, did a lot of good work around this. It says, like, questions are more transforming than answers. The skill is getting the questions right. That's exactly what this talk has been about. So if you're interested in, if you're interested in reading more, there is. I have a few books which I right now forgot, but come up to me after the talk. I'm going to give you the titles of them because I forgot to write them in my slides. That I've based some of the stuff in this talk on. Other things I just made up from my own experience. I have some stickers up here from other talks, Lead Like a Princess and Taylorism stickers if everybody wants. You can find me online. I'll be happy to take any questions if anybody has them. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. Yes. Sorry? Well, it kind of depends on what ended us up in the situation, but if they go like, I don't know, I would go like, have you been in this situation previously before? What happened then? What did you do then? I would go into those things, and they go like, I can't remember, then, like, I don't know. In that scenario, it's like, maybe it's not worth pursuing. But I would definitely try to reference previous things or previous situations that they've been in.
How do you determine if a coach is a good fit for you?
By trying it out. For me, a coach-coachee relationship is just like a partner relationship, right? So you try for 1-2 sessions, and if it's a good coach, they're going to be completely okay with you saying like, you know what, this isn't working out for me. This is not the conversations I want to be having. I'm going to be looking for somebody else. That's how I work, at least. When I also tell people like, go. We do one session together, and then we evaluate. Because a person that doesn't want to be coached by me, I don't want to coach them either, because we're not going to get anywhere. So you try it out.
You spoke about coaching upwards.
Yes.
And in the scenario that we're specifically asking, kind of asking for advice, is the scenarios where you maybe spot something that someone above you is doing, and are you able to approach them and ask for that permission to do that?
Yeah. You could be like, hey, I saw this going on. Like, would you be open to me asking some questions around that, or in a similar fashion like that? But I think upwards, you always have to ask permission. You always have to be okay with them saying like, no, like I'm not cool with that. Mostly they do say yes. You'll be surprised.
How do you adjust this for manager role? I mean, you talked a lot about how this is for like the hero or the
Yeah.
person who's more technical and they come. But when you're a manager, there are some things that you have to, like you said about psychology, or when people do come to you with problems, like my dog has died. Or
Yes.
like that. How do you adjust what you said here?
My okay, depending on your HR rules, HR book, and everything, you have some managerial responsibilities. Those are not coaching conversations. Those are manager conversations. So if people go and say like, I feel for people even if it's not like a person, if their dog has died. I was like, listen, I understand. Do you need some time off to handle stuff? They go like, yeah, it would be nice. Take the rest of the day off, figure things out. I'm going to call you in the morning and check in how things are going. Because in that situation, you're being the manager. You're not their coach. So you need to be mindful of what role am I playing here. You don't do this if you're in a salary talk. Because you're in a salary talk, you have managerial responsibilities. So you have the right conversation from the right role that you're doing.
Have you got any advice for answering really specific, like technical questions, like where's this thing, or how does that work? Because I'm starting to feel a bit like a wiki page at times.
Yeah, don't answer them. No, it's been there's 2 ways I've been dealing with that when I've been in tech roles. One is basically, so where have you looked? Like I just asked them, so where have you looked, or what have you tried so far? It's basically the same question. And I go like, oh, this and this. Is there anything else, any other place you can think of it might be? Right? And the second one is I basically say, you know what, I don't have time now. I'll come by tomorrow. If you still haven't found it, I'll help you. Then when I come by tomorrow, 100% guaranteed that they've already found it, because they haven't been looking hard enough. So if it's something that you conceivably think that they could possibly find on their own. So, because if you answer the question, you build a habit of them coming back to you and asking the questions again. So you want to avoid answering the question directly.
I work with quite a lot of international teams. Do you find do these techniques work with different cultures, or are there other things?
So I mean, I can only answer for the cultures I've worked with. They work really well with Swedish, English, German. That's where I've tried them. That's been fine for me. I haven't really been out in other cultures working, so I can't really respond to that.
If you're asking questions and they're coming up with a solution which you've got experience has gone disastrously wrong previously, do you relay that experience on to them, or?
How disastrously wrong would be. It's like if it's company breaking disastrously wrong, I would probably do it. If it's disastrously wrong in the sense that this is going to hurt and we're going to lose a few days, I would probably let them try it. Because that's also a learning experience, right? If you can tell a child not to touch the stove 100 times, but they only have to touch the stove once to realize that that was a really bad idea. So it a little bit depends. I would look at the situation. Of course, I don't want them to destroy the whole company, but if it's like, yeah, they're going to crash, pre-prod, and it's going to be a little bit painful, and it's going to be awkward for them, and they're going to have to spend some time restoring some data, I'd be like, all right, sure, go, see. And then maybe it'll work, because when you tried it, that was 2 years ago, and it didn't work then, and maybe now it's a different situation because things have moved, so it might work. Yes?
What happens if, say, someone doesn't have the confidence to go and speak to, say, the product team because of maybe the guy or the lead on the product team is stubborn, isn't going to say, you're pretty sure he might tell you no. So, say in that example, the guy was new,
Mm-hmm.
could be young, junior, doesn't have the confidence to go and actually say to the guy, no, I'm too busy, I'm too whatever. At what point does the manager or the coach step in and say, okay, you've come up with a solution yourself, maybe we could go together, or I could send an email, or you can send an email and put me in, CC me into it, or at what stage does that kind of, do you go from being do it yourself to...
I would try to have them do it themselves, and if I knew it would fail or it would be like awkward, I would let them try once first, and then in the next session if they come back and it's like, this happened, and this, I would see if they would come up with another solution. And at some point, if I'm actually the lead on this, or at some point I need to stop being the coach and I need to take on my leadership responsibility. But then at least we've grown the person a little bit. We've built their confidence. They actually asked once. They tried some things on their own. Now now the product lead is being extremely difficult. Now might be the right time for me to step in. But I would suggest at least 1 or 2 tries should be their own tries before I decide that this problem might be too complicated and I need to take it off their hands.
I've got a lot of people who really like to do the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
They've got lots of useful skills. How do I convince them to be coaches?
You say you have a lot of people that...
I've got really useful skills that I'd like them to coach other people. How
Yeah.
do I convince them to be coaches?
Why don't they want to be coaches? Ask them. Yeah, but yeah, you could ask them. Be like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or have you thought about what might happen if more people in the organization knew what you know? To get them kind of warming up to this idea. I would not tell them to be coaches because that's probably going to fail, but yeah.
Kind of similar to a couple of questions that other people asked around both, let's say, project leadership and technical leadership, and how do you know when to take the coaching hat off and put these other hats on? Does that just come from experience? Because
yeah, the rule of thumb would be if this is something you would expect to be within that person's job to do, you should probably coach them to do it. But if it's you feel that they're actually coming to something to you with something that is actually your job to do, well, then it's actually your job to do, right? But a lot of the stuff that people show up with that's stuff that they should be figuring out on your own, and they're just asking for help or advice. That's kind of a rule of thumb.
yeah, because they're probably running into it as part of their jobs.
Yeah, yeah.